I'm Tim Hooper.
And I'm Mike Gandolfo.
And this is The Trust Factor.
Where high touch
plus high tech
multiplied by high trust
equals the real estate professional's formula for success. Welcome back, everybody, to The Trust Factor. I'm Tim. He's Mike. And we're excited to jump into a conversation I think many in real estate need to have sooner than they think.
And we both have this problem right now, which I think is kind of interesting. So
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah. The problem of you being the biggest bottleneck, Tim being the biggest bottleneck in my business, in my dreams, in my vision, in the important work that only you can do, but I'm quagmired in the work that anybody could do. And so, Mike,
but I don't know if that's true though, Tim. I don't know if anybody can do it. Well, I'll give you an example. I can't do it. And I can't do it well. This is why I need to hire somebody. I think we tell ourselves we can do this stuff, and it seems like, it's stuff that we can do. It's definitely not stuff we should do. There's that whole thing. But at the end of the day, like this, I'm looking to hire to fill gaps. Chrissy will sit down there when we have our staff meetings, and she'll be like, okay, here he goes. He's off in this direction. Our job is to lay the tracks quicker than he is going, so he doesn't come off the rails all the way. And because I'm not, I'm very much a fire ready aim person, and so I'm designed. I think it's the self-awareness of knowing how we're designed and know where our gaps are, because one of the mistakes I think, by the way, you all are going to get a free-flowing conversation. This conversation probably should have more structure to it. But one of the mistakes I think that people make, besides the big one of not surrendering, is that they hire someone who's too much like them.
Yeah.
Someone they want to have a good time with.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of really having the self-awareness of the gaps that you have and where you need to fill them in. And so I'll just tell you what I just, literally while we were talking, what I did. I have a couple personality assessments. So I have the Buffini does this thing called Real Strengths, which is phenomenal. It's my favorite one.
Okay.
I have a DISC profile.
Yep. I've done DISC quite a bit.
I've got a predictive index. I got two different predictive index things, which it might be my second favorite.
Okay.
And then there's a speaker named Sally Hogshead. Have you ever heard Sally Hogshead?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She does this whole Fascinate profile, which I think is
Mike, I've never heard anybody else talk about Sally.
No,
it's
and
the first time.
She's a hidden gem, man. Go get her book, right? Because what her personality assessment and how it's different is this is how you're perceived by people.
By the world. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you're perceived by the world. So it gives you this other self-awareness kind of thing. And
isn't hers like the fascination advantage or something like that?
Yeah, it's fast. It's the Fascinate profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which, you know what my fascinate, you'll laugh. You know what mine is?
No.
The change agent.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So,
I need to dig mine out. I did mine with Sally 10 years ago.
Yeah. I did it longer than that. Well, no, it's probably about 10 years ago too. I did in Richmond, Virginia, actually.
In Richmond?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's dig that out. But check Sally. Yeah, that's great. Sally's work's great.
I just put all that stuff in Perplexity. And I said, I need to hire an assistant. So we're having this conversation because we just lost our marketing person, and she had 25 years of real estate experience. She knew how to integrate technology, but quite honestly, when we hired her, technology was different.
Yep.
And so I'm aware of the fact that I need different things out of that role now, right? Because I can do so much with Perplexity and Manus. And if you heard our episodes earlier, you know that we're filling jobs with what our AI products that we have. But the human thing, oh, by the way, you'll love this. I was sitting, I don't know if you know who Eric Blackwell is. I guarantee you've met him before at Real Estate Distilled.
Okay.
And
probably.
He is he's just a tech genius. And he's like, the successful people moving forward are going to be the curious, are the people who say, can I do this? And they figure out how to, because the technology is at your hands for you to do it.
Right. Correct.
Right. And this is actually stuff I'm working on today because of that. And so now I need someone who can manage our marketing, but then manage Mike at the same time. Like, I think that's the role. And so I kind of put that in Perplexity. I put all my personality profiles. I need an assistant, ideally someone who can manage marketing for my brands, as well as keep me on track without falling off the rails. And it just gave me a complete rundown of exactly what I need to look for and how to hire. It'll probably give me interview questions. I know it will if I ask.
Wow.
It, right.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, even this thing of you versus the ideal assistant. So for me, I love starting and changing things, and I need an assistant who loves finishing and stabilizing things. Right. I'm fast and urgent and future focused. I need someone who's steady and deadline aware.
Yep.
I'm big picture, hates the minutia, and so I need someone who's detailed lover, who's checklist driven. I'm flexible and bends the rules. I need someone who respects process and guardrails. And I'm influential in my socialness, and I need someone who's warm but not needing the spotlight. Like, that's amazing just to have that kind of stuff and use Perplexity to come through this stuff.
That's why we get along so well. Like, you're basically reading.
I'm you. Yes.
You're reading me. It's funny. So this big real estate move happening for us, and we talked about in previous episodes where, we're not even planning a move, and then all of a sudden we're moving because kids are going to go to school and daughter's going to, probably your fault.
I said, don't you need to change the scenery? And you're like, you know what? I do need to change the scenery. Let's go buy a house.
So in order to, it's interesting because we're listing our house for rent. And in order to list for rent, I'm bringing a property management company in. And in order to bring a property management company in, I'm thinking, well, this is creating that buffer that I want so that I don't have to fool with it. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm a pretty handy guy. I don't really have, and that's a problem. That's most of you listening right now. If you're in business,
if you're in real estate, you hear a seller say, I'm a handy guy. It's like, oh God,
yeah,
no.
Yes, but you need to think about it this way. I'm going to flip the script on you, Mike. You all in your businesses, you're all pretty handy guys. Mm-hmm. You know how to plunge the toilet. You know how to fix the plumbing. Like, you know how to wire the electrical box. Like, and that's a problem because when the property management company, of course, they're a great company. They know the local people. But I'm sitting here going, I don't even really know who to call because I've jumped in there and done it myself. So that's kind of where Mike right now in this phase of this conversation is. You're sitting there, you're pretty handy, and you don't even know where to call. And the hardest part for me, Mike, is slowing down to go to Google Buckingham County plumber, and then call 3 plumbers to see who picks up the phone, who's available and close, like, or call my network and ask for a referral to who the best plumber is, who's responsive. So however, whatever that looks like, that's the hardest part of this for me, is to get on the freaking phone and call somebody and set up an interview with somebody. And so think about that in your business. Most of us don't hire an assistant. Most of us don't think about, well, number one, we might not even think about first what to delegate. That could probably be a problem. But I think if you go get the right person, that right person can help you delegate. So go back to what you told me this morning, Mike, about the resume I sent you or the referral I sent you this week. And you graciously declined this morning as we were kind of getting on and getting ready. You said, I have to have somebody in my face. Like, so you already know the kind of assistant you need.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of handy person you are.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it right on the, I mean, number one, I think when you were talking and I'm thinking of the person who can fix their own toilet and whatever else, just because you could doesn't mean you should. And understanding the, and we're going to get into this, I think, deeper, but if you're doing $20, $25 an hour work, that means you're not doing $200 an hour work.
Yep.
Right. So that is like And I remember too, like I'll talk to some agents and they'll be saying, "Oh, I got this," and my assistant missed something on something, and I was like, that person has got to screw up 8 times an hour before you should even be worried about it, right? And otherwise, we're just micromanaging. And now you have to have trust and all that stuff with that person. But for me, you came to me with a great person who is not in my area, who could work with me virtually. If it's virtual and that person's not in my face, then I'm just gonna do it. Like I know that I'm gonna just do it. Because in my eyes, lots of times the things that I'm asking them to do is just as easy for me to do it as it is for me to ask them to do it.
Right.
And it's hard for me to get them systemized where they're doing it without me asking to do it.
Yep.
And because what happens in our world is we are not equipped. I mean, you get in the real estate business in the first place, you have to do everything, right? I mean, so you're doing it all, and we're not equipped to really understand how to play well with others.
But you're a coach.
I am a coach, but guess who's the hardest person to coach?
The coach.
The coach. That's the hardest person to coach. Yeah. So we just have to put the systems in place, and really understand our gaps and where the needs are, and then trust the person that you hired to do the job.
Right. Somebody said, and I think this might be two of the mindsets that are hard to overcome. So we talked about just going out and finding the right somebody, because the right somebody is going to come in and they're going to do a good job, but they're also going to be that initiator to say, hey, I can also take this off your plate. Hey, I can also take this off your plate. Right. So understanding, number one, that you're doing work that anybody can do should fire up just a little bit of a holy indignation inside of you, because you are bearing your talents. There's the parable in scripture that says, when the servants were given the talents, and my words this year is steward, so I've been studying this. But when the servants were given the talents, one went and invested it. Well, 3 went and invested, 1 for 2, 1 for 5, 1 for 10 when it was all told. And then one, and I believe this one, wow, we look at this parable and say, wow, how stupid. He went and buried it in the ground. That's like putting cash in a low yield fund because it's like secure, or putting cash under your pillow. Like, cash in a safe for you right now, like if you're like, I've squirreled away some money in the safe, that's literally deteriorating. It's literally losing value as it sits there in the safe. And this is what this guy did. But I feel like we sometimes think about that talent buried in money terms. But if you think about it, the talent, and the word talent is used, is also your gift, your gifting. So if you're burying in the dirt of, I have to do this and this and this and this and this today, and I'll hopefully get around to doing the thing that I really love to do. Does that make sense? You're burying your talent in the dirt. A mentor of mine a long time ago, this isn't the one I told you this morning. I'll get to Jack, but this was Dar. Dar was a colonel, retired colonel. He was the guy who took the whole battalion into Fallujah during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Dar wore the wristband with those 22 men who died in the Battle of Fallujah.
Jeez.
I mean, he personally felt, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And Dar told me, he said, Tim, delegate or do what only you can do and delegate the rest. That's the mindset. Do what only you can do and delegate the rest.
Yeah, and I love that analogy. And someone once told me it's kind of like going to the dentist, right? So the dentist, you're at the dentist for an hour and a half, getting your teeth cleaned, whatever else. I mean, I'm in Kentucky, so we only go once every 15 years. But that was a joke. I guess we'll edit that out. I don't know.
But leave it, man. Because West Virginia, you could always bang up on them really hard too. So
Daniel Kaufman, phenomenal dentist. That's who we go to. He is, but I go in there and I go to Daniel's office, and there's the receptionist, the dental hygienist, the dental assistant, the person taking my x-rays. I'm interacting probably with 4 or 5 of his staff for 85 to 90% of the time I'm at the dental office.
Right.
Someone else is cleaning my teeth. Someone else is doing this. Daniel comes in. He's going to build rapport. He's going to make sure he knows that I'm coming to see him, but he only comes in to do the stuff that he is uniquely skilled to do. And everything else is going to be handled by someone else.
Yeah.
Because then he can go do what he's uniquely skilled to do. Because when you're in the dental office and you're there for an hour and a half, he's got 10 other patients in there, and he can scale what he's doing because he's got this great staff who's really is phenomenal, doing all these other things so that he can come in with each one and do what he's uniquely qualified to do.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's so powerful.
Yeah. 4 kids in braces. I try to stack them all on the same day. So we get it. We roll in there and boom, 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 boom. They line them up in the different rooms, and Marcus is hopping, man. He's just going between, and at 4 kids there, he probably spends 15 minutes with us.
Yeah.
Between all 4, he's already back. He's doing all the other rounds, but he's got those special lenses, and it's like, what in real estate, what are your special lenses that you're not even wearing or flipping down often enough because you're cleaning teeth, and so.
Those are obvious, but for realtors, it's obvious. I don't know if people take the time to do it, but it's your literal face-to-face and voice-to-voice lead generation.
Yep.
It's your buyer consultation.
Yeah.
And your listing consultation.
Yeah.
And it's anytime you have to negotiate. And so people are like, well, what about showing houses? Nope. Anybody can go show that house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things, if you want to have a licensed assistant in real estate, have them go show the houses, and then you show up maybe for the second showing. But how many times you could still negotiate for that person without showing them the house? So if you are looking at, if I'm doing voice-to-voice and face-to-face lead generation with my A+ clients, my A clients, the people who are my walking, talking billboards, my advocates, my business-to-business network, and I'm working to duplicate the client that I'm working with right now.
Yep.
If I am writing offers and negotiating deals, and I'm doing buyer consultations and listing appointments, those are the things that you're uniquely qualified to do that actually lead to a paycheck.
Yep.
So, everything else you can figure out how to get it off your plate.
Yeah. Another mentor of mine, Jack Daly, go get jacked with Jack. He also has what's out. I think it's still online. Life by Design by Jack. And by the way, he's still speaking at 90. He's run 100 marathons. The guy's just a beast. Overcame cancer. Just incredible mindset. But I never forget at a sales conference, and he was the OG sales mentor of mine. At a sales conference, he said, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Mm-hmm. Basically, there's work you're doing as a salesperson. And his whole thing was fractional. So he talked to salespeople. He said, you might be working for a company who's not willing to invest in an assistant for you. He said, you need to look at your job in sales as the opportunity to earn a raise every day. And it should bug you to death that you're not earning a raise every day if you're not doing your high value activities. So then it begs the question, well, what are my high value activities? And you just mentioned a real estate agent's high value activities, but you might be a mortgage company listening, a home warranty company listening. It's until you take a pen to paper and say, these are my high value activities, i.e. the things that only I can do, or the things that you're gifted to do very well. And then everything that anybody could do, or the right person could do better for you. And here's the other interesting thing about the parable about the talent. The Lord came back and said, well done, good and faithful servant, to all 3. The one who received 2, 5, and 10. And so that tells me that the outcome isn't necessarily your responsibility. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody does shoddy work, they're only getting a 2. You might want to move up to a person who gets you a 5. But at the end of the day, the person, the servant put the talent to he said to the servant who buried it, you could have at least given this over to the user for and made a little bit of interest on it. So what he was saying was, you didn't even trust the process. You didn't trust the investment process. And so here's the other thing. It's not about, well, I can't afford a virtual assistant. You can't afford not to have a virtual assistant. Here's the deal. If you're thinking in like $8 an hour, $25 an hour, if you're thinking in those terms, then you're not thinking in the opportunity cost terms of what you're being buried and not putting your talent to better use because you've offloaded something. It is not your job to figure out, can they do it better than me or as good as me? They're probably going to do it different than you. And that's actually probably going to be the best thing for you. Like to have somebody now, Mike, you know the real estate side and having an assistant better than I do. There's got to be a certain level of customer service. You said earlier, they got to be able to stay in the bounds and have the rules and know what guardrails look like, because you're the one who's out here testing things and doing different things. So, and they need to know what finishing a project looks like, because you like to start them. So like those sorts of things, making sure there's alignment. But at the end of the day, you being free to go do your thing and not have to micromanage something. That's the key. That's the gift you need to give yourself. So
what you said is so important, so well said. So I just want to let's put this in terms that people can understand, because you're talking about time, but also assigning $1 per hour, which is super important. A lot of people, if people would budget their time and allocate their time the way that they think about their money wouldn't be an issue. Okay,
that's powerful right there.
Yeah. I'm the person who's going to put the money under my mattress. Okay, and let's just say, 20 years ago, I started putting $100 under my mattress. Can I buy? Let's just say, I don't know, I want to buy candy bars. Could you buy more candy bars 20 years ago with that $100? That's a lot of candy bars. Or could you buy more candy bars now with that $100?
100 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah. 100 years ago for sure. I don't even know if did we have candy bars 100 years ago? I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know. Smoothie. Yeah. You had milkshakes for sure.
Sure, yes. Yeah. Milkshakes is a great one. So ice cream cones, whatever it is. So you could buy way more because that $1 you had more value 20 years ago than it does today. Meanwhile, if I would have taken that $100 and start rolling it into something that gave me a return,
right.
That $100 at whatever 4% annual, whatever you want to look at it, is compounding. It's compounding. Your business is not compounding if you're bearing the inability for you to do the high dollar work, because and so much of what happens is that we mistake being busy for being productive, and we find value in being busy.
Yeah.
But you want to be productive.
Right.
Tim, you know a lot of really successful people. And I would say the majority of the ones that are really, really successful actually aren't that busy.
Yeah. The most successful that I'm around, they've learned how to create margin. And by the way, the more you're directing, the more margin you need. You have to be able to have that visibility, the time to zoom out, the time to get out of your business, like stop working in your business to work on. If you're going to initiate something new, open a new office, if you're going to grow, you have to be able to radically protect your white space, where you can think, where you can step back and reflect and analyze, where you can make the call. So that's where I think the more ownership you take, the more you look at the role you play it's an investment role. It's a management role. It's a stewardship role. And it's really honed into your singular talent, the thing you do. It was interesting. I told my wife after we ended this week, I said, man, she said, how was your Friday? I was like, my entire Friday from one call to the next, of course, it was just back to back to back, was challenge. And every call somebody said, wow, thank you. Like I'm like, my number one role is I ask questions and bring perspective and then help people make connections. And when I get to do that, when I feel like that's coming out, when it's here, coming through here, out here, or it's actually here. We always point to the heart. This is like the heart, but it's here, coming through the vocals here, done in the right tone and the right leaning in with that person fully in, not distracted. It also blows my mind as I've purposed to be less distracted in meetings, whatever, to actually, it's opened my eyes to realize how many people come to meetings on their phone, on their laptop, totally distracted. This is also a huge mindset shift for delegation. If you can't be where you are 100%, you need to delegate something. You need to say no to something.
You need somebody. You need to hire somebody.
But most of us have fooled ourselves with technology that we can do 10 things at one time. Like, I'm really good at multitasking, and that's exactly what's hindering you from moving to the next level, because you have not given yourself fully the presence of actually being where you are to analyze, to understand, and to move things forward, genuinely move things forward. You're an operator, not operating like you. So it's a lot of mindset. I'll tell you real quick, my business mentor, he just told me this. I said, Keith, what is one thing you would tell me right now in my phase of life with you? He knows where I'm at, that with my business, with scaling. He said the 2 words: outsource ruthlessly. He said, outsource ruthlessly. He said, your job is not do everything. Your job is to design the machine and drive demand. So like I asked him, what's your hype? What's your one thing? He's like, drive demand. I'm an educator. I'm good at it. I know I'm good at it. And when I go and show up and speak in the market, wonderful things happen for my business. So anything pulling me away from that, I'm no longer driving demand. I'm working on the machine because I didn't set up the machine. But he also said it's very hard to delegate before you've systematized. And that's why I think a lot of us haven't paused long enough to organize the chaos enough. You don't need to like every day organize the chaos. You need to organize it in your head to understand how it flows in, how it flows out, how you want that to look for your unique brand and purposes, and then design the machine to get the output, define those roles, and then hire. And that might look like just one role that can handle 3 of the pots on the stove for you in your business, so you can go harvest the noodles, or you know what I mean?
Man, and so many things right there. First off, when you were talking about, all the fires you were putting out and all the calls, and number one, I reminded myself of a quote that your income is directly related to the level of problem that you solve. Right? So you're helping people solve problems. And meanwhile, you've heard me say this before, that we experience joy when we get to share God's given gifts, that the gifts that God gave us, we get to share those with those people that need them. And when we're buried in the minutia and the real simple work, the busy work, we can't share our gifts, so we don't experience joy. I love what you said about being fully present and how technology has actually made us in some ways less effective. Yeah. And I'd like to get into that a little bit, and about how we're looking at our use of technology to help us now when we're hiring the next person, and the tools that we're gonna have in place. All those things, extremely powerful, man. I love it. You always know when you're experiencing joy. You love putting out those problems. And I was sitting with a young lady on Friday too, ironically. And she's like, I really want to start a business. And I was like, well, you're asking the wrong question. It's like, what's the problem that you want to solve? What's the problem that you're uniquely qualified to solve?
Yeah.
And then we build the business based off the problem. So, and so I've just been sending her a text message. What's the problem you want to solve? And she sent me a nice long email last night. So now we'll have to figure out if we can help her solve that problem.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
powerful. Man. Getting clear. I think clarity on who you are, what you're called to do, what your high value activities are, and then do your personality, like Mike was talking about when we first started, understanding who you are and what gaps you personally need filled, because it's not just work. It's blind spots. It's somebody calling you out. I'll tell you, I had my mother-in-law working with me. She always said, "Oh, you're my boss. I work for you." I'm like, "You never work for me. You work. In fact, I work for you."
That's right.
But she was working with me for 5 years, and I'll tell you, the standard of I had to go sit with her every Friday morning with my stack of books, with my stack of postcards, with my stack of, like, the things I said were important for us to do together was she'd mail my books out. She'd mail my postcards out, my thank you notes, the things that mattered to my business, that if she wasn't there every Friday morning, Mike, I just let slide and let slide. In fact, you received your book, Mike, make this very practical. I ended with my mother-in-law.
It's downstairs. I was going to pull it out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I ended with her right before Energize. You came to Energize, and as I was handing you my book, or I was about to put my book, you said, "Do not give me your book. You take time to write me a nice note in there and mail it." I was like, dude, I love it. So I go home, and that freaking book sits on my bureau and stares at me with another stack for like a month and a half. And you finally got it, because I had to in my head say, I just created mother-in-law. We ended our she needed to fully retire, and I love her to death. But I was like, then I have all these books stacking up, because that was my process broke down. So I asked my daughter, I said, hey, $25 an hour. Can you get into pirate ship, just create labels and put these in the mail and get this stuff done for me? She's like, sure. So she's doing all the labeling and all that. I'm like, it broke down on me. You know what I mean? And then my partners didn't get the touch. They didn't, you know what I mean? So it's like, anyway, having somebody there every week to demand it of me is what I needed.
Well, and you say, how many times we heard to be unclear is to be unkind. Right. To be unclear is to be unkind. And whenever I look back in the assistants and the people that I've hired in the past that haven't worked out, it has nothing to do with who I hired. It has everything to do with me and the clarity at which I come to, being able to have the system predetermined and plugging them into the system, because that I'm the free thinker. I'm the big idea guy. I'm not hiring the big idea guy. I'm hiring the person to follow the rules or follow the checklist or whatever else. And if I can't systemize it, then I'm being unclear. And if I'm being unclear on what the expectations are, what are the KPIs, right? Yep. So if you're hiring, I went through an interview one time, and we got to the point where we were talking about what we were going to pay them, and we were way off on what the pay was going to be. And this person, let's just say that this person wanted $50,000, right? And I said, well, for me to pay you $50,000, I need to know what you're doing is helping me make $150,000. She's like, well, if I'm making you $150,000, then I want to get paid $150,000. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is an investment. This is me plugging you in here so I can go do this other stuff so that this runs more efficient. But this is why we got to look at it as this investment, but it cannot be that unless we have it clearly defined, which is hard for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So,
dude,
let's stop here.
Yep.
This might be a two-parter. And we're gonna come back in the next episode, and we're gonna talk about integrating our technology tools into hiring and what that looks like going forward, because I think the game has completely changed.
It really has. Yeah. It really has. This piece of admin and delegating is really the high touch piece of it. we're going to come back and talk about delegating an admin with the high tech of it. And just a little teaser. If you're somebody like a virtual assistant listening right now, start leaning in. If you're a marketing person, start leaning into technology if you haven't yet, because you need to augment, like you need to think about what you can bring to the table of being an admin and being a marketing assistant, leveraging the power of AI, or else you're going to be replaced. Like, you know what I mean? Technology will displace administrators and assistants unless those folks start looking at their technology different. But we'll get into it on the other side.
I love it. All right, we'll see you next time on Trust Factor. The Trust Factor podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. You can even watch us on YouTube.
And subscribe to the channel so you can comment and drop your questions and share it with your team.